Maverick! You ain't leaving this town and you tell me how you done it.
I didn't quite get this finished. If you have anyone in jail with time on his hands, well, maybe he can finish it for me.
Are you going to answer my question?
Sheriff, it isn't often I can say this. I feel like I'm leaving Sunny Acres a better place than I found it.
For over 60 years, the stars of Maverick captured our hearts with their wit and charm. But where are they today? Some found eternal fame, while others faced heartbreaking ends far from the spotlight's glow. Prepare for an emotional roller coaster as we reveal the shocking transformations and final farewells of the cast that made TV history. Grab your tissues. This journey is truly unforgettable. Jack Kelly as Bart Maverick. Born on September 16, 1927, in Astoria, Queens, New York, the actor came from a prominent theatrical family before landing his career-defining role in the Warner Brothers hit, Maverick. At the age of 30, Kelly joined the series initially to alternate leads with James Garner, allowing production to film 2 episodes simultaneously. His portrayal of Bart Maverick, a card-playing, travel-weary anti-hero, became integral to the show's formula, providing a slightly more pragmatic counterpoint to his TV brother. He appeared in more episodes than any other actor in the series, maintaining the show's popularity and cultural footprint even as the cast rotated around him. While Bart Maverick was a transient gambler looking for the easy way out, Jack Kelly was a grounded, civic-minded individual who sought stability and community service. His professional journey was frequently marked by the struggle of living in the shadow of his co-star, James Garner, whose breakout popularity often eclipsed Kelly's steady and reliable performance. Following Garner's acrimonious departure from the show due to a contract dispute, Kelly faced the difficult task of carrying the franchise alone, battling declining ratings and the inevitable typecasting that plagued many Western stars of the era. Finding substantial leading roles after the cancellation of Maverick proved challenging, as the industry had largely pigeonholed him as a cowboy. Jack Kelly continued to act in various guest roles throughout the 1960s and 70s and briefly hosted the game show Sale of the Century, but eventually shifted his focus away from Hollywood to public service and real estate. In the 1980s, he entered politics, serving as a city councilman and eventually the mayor of Huntington Beach, California, embracing a life of civic duty far removed from the poker tables of the Old West. He reprised his iconic role one final time in the 1991 TV movie The Gambler Returns: The Luck of the Draw. Jack Kelly passed away on November 7, 1992, at the age of 65 after suffering a massive stroke at a hospital in Huntington Beach. He is remembered today not only as a television icon, but also for his significant contributions to local government in Southern California. James Garner as Bart Maverick. Born on April 7, 1928, the Norman, Oklahoma native first brought Bart to life in the television western Maverick. At the age of 29, Garner's portrayal of the charming, articulate card sharp became a cultural sensation, subverting the traditional stoic cowboy archetype with wit and a distinct aversion to violence. For the show's initial run, his charismatic performance defined a character that revitalized the genre, turning him into a household name and establishing an anti-hero persona that audiences found irresistibly refreshing. While Bart Maverick was a smooth talker who would rather flee than fight, James Garner was a decorated Korean War veteran with a rigid sense of justice and a history of physical toughness. This contrast manifested in a significant professional struggle. Unlike his easygoing character, Garner engaged in a high-stakes legal battle with Warner Brothers. In 1960, suing them for breach of contract to escape a restrictive studio deal. Although he won the landmark case, the conflict effectively ended his tenure as Maverick early and temporarily alienated him from the television industry, forcing him to fight for his worth in a system designed to control talent. He also endured chronic physical pain throughout his career, the result of performing his own stunts, which led to multiple surgeries and years of health struggles that the audience rarely saw. James Garner continued to enjoy a prolific career in both film and television, famously cementing his legacy with the role of Jim Rockford in The Rockford Files and later appearing in The Notebook and 8 Simple Rules. He remained married to his wife, Lois Clark, for 57 years until his death, maintaining a private and stable family life rare for Hollywood. Garner passed away at his home in Los Angeles on July 19, 2014, at the age of 86 from a massive heart attack caused by coronary artery disease. His death was mourned as the loss of one of the industry's most likable leading men, leaving behind a body of work that defined the reluctant hero for generations. Roger Mohr as Beau Maverick. Born on October 14, 1927, in Stockwell, London, the future cinema icon made a pivotal move to American television to play the transatlantic cousin, Beau Maverick. At the age of 32, Mohr stepped into the established hit series during its 4th season, tasked with the formidable challenge of filling the void left by original star James Garner. His portrayal brought a debonair, sophisticated, and distinctly British charm to the Wild West setting, proving that he could carry a lead role in the highly competitive U.S. market, and effectively setting the stage for his future global superstardom as a suave man of action. Despite his natural charisma on screen, Mohr's tenure on the show was marked by significant professional discomfort and creative frustration. Unlike the confident gambler he portrayed, Mohr felt entirely out of place in a Western setting and struggled deeply with the reality that he had been hired essentially as a strikebreaker to replace Garner, who was suing the studio. He was also vocal about his dissatisfaction with the lazy production values, noting that many of his scripts were simply recycled episodes originally written for Garner with the character names crossed out. This lack of originality and the grueling studio contract led him to quit the series after filming only 14 episodes, refusing to continue in a role where he felt he was merely living in another actor's shadow. Roger Mohr eventually found the roles that fit his persona perfectly, achieving immortal fame as Simon Templar in The Saint, and later defining a generation as James Bond in 7007 films. He spent his later years dedicated to humanitarian work as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, a role he often cited as his greatest achievement over his acting career. Sir Roger Mohr passed away in Crans-Montana, Switzerland on May 23, 2017, at the age of 89, following a short but brave battle with cancer. His death prompted a massive global outpouring of tributes with fellow Bond actors, and the Queen acknowledging his contributions to both the arts and charity. Clint Eastwood as Red Hardigan. Born on May 31, 1930, the San Francisco native spent his early years working manual labor jobs before finding his footing in Hollywood. At the age of 28, Eastwood's portrayal of Red Hardigan in the Maverick episode Duel at Sundown presented a flashy, arrogant bully that stood in sharp contrast to the heroes of the era. Although it was a guest appearance rather than a starring role, his commanding screen presence and ability to intimidate the show's lead, James Garner, served as a pivotal showcase of his charisma. This performance helped prove he could carry the weight of a Western, acting as a crucial stepping stone that led directly to his breakout success in Rawhide and his subsequent rise as an international icon. Despite Red Hardigan's loud, boastful, and aggressive nature, Clint Eastwood was naturally introverted, soft-spoken, and notoriously private traits that would later define his strong, silent screen persona. This period of his life was marked by significant professional uncertainty. He faced frequent rejection from studio executives who criticized his stiff delivery, his prominent Adam's apple, and even a chipped tooth, claiming he didn't fit the mold of a traditional leading man. He struggled to make ends meet, digging swimming pools and working as a garbage collector to survive, constantly battling the fear that his contract would be dropped before he ever secured a defining role. Clint Eastwood went on to become one of the most prolific figures in cinema history, transitioning from a Western star to an Academy Award-winning director and producer. He maintained a life largely away from the Hollywood glitz, settling in Carmel-by-the-Sea, California, where he once served as mayor while navigating a complex personal life that included 2 marriages and 8 children. As of 2026, at the age of 95, he is a living legend who has remained active in the film industry well into his nonagenarian years, recently releasing what many consider to be his final directorial efforts, and cementing a legacy that has endured for nearly 7 decades. Louise Fletcher as Kathy Bent. Born on July 22, 1934 in Birmingham, Alabama, the tall and striking actress began her career in the golden age of television westerns. At the age of 24, Fletcher took on the role of Kathy Bent in the Maverick episode titled The Saga of Waco Williams. This specific episode became a historic television event, recorded as the single highest-rated episode in the entire run of the series, drawing a massive audience that eclipsed other heavyweights of the time like The Ed Sullivan Show. Her performance contributed to a cultural touchstone in the Western genre, proving she could hold the screen against the charismatic James Garner in a story that captivated millions. Despite the record-breaking success of her appearance on Maverick, Fletcher faced a frustrating reality in Hollywood that forced her away from the industry. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, she was taller than many leading men of the era, which caused producers to repeatedly pass her over for romantic roles to protect the egos of male stars. This physical contrast to the petite ideal of the time became a professional barrier she could not overcome. Disheartened by the rejection and choosing to focus on raising her children, she quit acting entirely in 1962, leaving a promising career dormant for over a decade, a stark departure from the visibility she had briefly enjoyed. Louise Fletcher eventually returned to Hollywood in the 1970s to achieve cinematic immortality as the villainous Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, winning an Academy Award and later gained cult status as Kai Wynn in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She remained active in the industry well into her later years, overcoming 2 bouts of breast cancer along the way. Louise Fletcher passed away at her home in Monteros, France on September 23, 2022, at the age of 88 from natural causes. Her death marked the end of a remarkable second act for an actress who once walked away from fame only to return and etch her name permanently into film history. Adam West as Vic Norwood. Born on September 19, 1928, the Walla Walla, Washington native guest starred in several westerns before becoming a household name. At the age of 30, his portrayal of the character showcased the smooth, commanding screen presence and classic leading man looks that would eventually catch the eye of producers for much larger projects. While his time in the role was limited to a guest spot in the popular series, it served as a vital stepping stone in his early career, proving his ability to hold his own against established stars like James Garner and cementing his status as a reliable talent in Hollywood's golden age of westerns. Adam West possessed a quirky, intellectual humor and a gentle demeanor that differed greatly from the rugged cowboys he often played in the late 50s. This contrast became even more pronounced later in his career. While he was capable of dramatic depth, his professional life was defined and significantly hampered by his most famous role as Batman. Following the cancellation of the Batman series, West faced severe typecasting and found himself unable to secure serious work, as casting directors could only see him as the caped crusader. This period was marked by financial struggles and the professional heartbreak of being dismissed as a novelty act, forcing him to make personal appearances in costume just to make ends meet. Adam West eventually reinvented himself through voice acting and embraced his campy icon status, finding late career success as the eccentric Mayor Adam West on Family Guy. He passed away in Los Angeles, California, on June 9, 2017, at the age of 88, following a short battle with leukemia. His death triggered an outpouring of tributes from fans and industry peers alike, culminating in a ceremonial lighting of the bat signal on Los Angeles City Hall, a fitting homage to an actor who had transcended his early struggles to become a beloved pop culture legend. Kathleen Crowley as Marla. Born on December 26, 1929, the Greenbank, New Jersey native was a former Miss New Jersey before making her mark in Hollywood. At the age of 28, Crowley stepped into the world of Maverick, eventually portraying Marla, a recurring character type who served as a charming but duplicitous foil to the Maverick brothers. She holds the distinct record of appearing in 8 different episodes, more than any other leading lady in the series' run, often playing the beautiful con woman whose cunning rivaled Brett and Bart's own. Her portrayal was a cultural highlight of the late 50s Western craze, cementing her image as the era's quintessential quick-witted beauty who could hold her own in a male-dominated genre. In stark contrast to the manipulative and self-serving Marla, Kathleen Crowley was known in real life as a gentle, down-to-earth personality who prioritized integrity over the Hollywood rat race. While she played the bad girl with ease, the role masked the professional frustration of an actress who was frequently dubbed the B-movie queen. Despite her undeniable talent and stunning looks, she struggled to break out of low-budget sci-fi and horror films like Curse of the Undead or Target Earth. She faced the relentless grind of being a perpetual guest star rather than landing a permanent lead role of her own, and the typecasting as a scream queen or a Western vixen often limited the dramatic range she was allowed to display on screen. Kathleen Crowley eventually retired from acting in 1970 to focus on her family, stepping away from the limelight completely to return to a quieter life in her home state. She remained married to her husband, John Rubsam, for 47 years until her passing, living a private existence far removed from the sound stages of Los Angeles. Crowley passed away at her home in Greenbank, New Jersey on April 23, 2017, at the age of 87 due to a heart ailment. She was remembered not just as the captivating nemesis of the Maverick brothers, but as a beloved local figure who traded the artificial glamour of Hollywood for a devoted family life. Chubby Johnson as Oscar. Born on March 19, 1903, in Terre Haute, Indiana, the distinctive character actor stepped into the Western landscape well into his middle years. At the age of 54, Johnson took on the role of Oscar the Stagecoach Driver in the premiere episode of Maverick, titled War of the Silver Kings. His portrayal of the grizzled, raspy-voiced rustic helped establish the show's unique blend of humor and action, providing a perfect comedic foil to James Garner's smooth-talking gambler. His folksy charm and unforgettable voice made him an instant archetype for the genre, cementing his status as one of Hollywood's most reliable Western sidekicks, who added texture to the frontier setting. Despite his on-screen persona as an unpolished, often illiterate rustic, Chubby Johnson was a man of words and intellect in reality. Before ever stepping in front of a camera, he had a successful career as a newspaper journalist and radio personality, a stark contrast to the rough-hewn characters he embodied. His Hollywood career was defined by intense typecasting. Once the industry heard his gravelly voice and saw his friendly, craggy face, he was rarely considered for anything other than deputies' drivers or prairie philosophers. While this ensured steady work, it restricted him to a specific niche, preventing him from exploring a wider range of dramatic roles, even as the classic Western genre began to fade from dominance. Johnson continued to be a familiar face on television and in film throughout the 1960s and early 1970s, appearing in classics like Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and The Andy Griffith Show. He remained active in the industry until shortly before his death, maintaining his jovial reputation among castmates and crew. Chubby Johnson passed away in Hollywood, California on October 31, 1974, at the age of 71, following a short illness. His passing marked the loss of one of the Western genre's most beloved character actors, leaving behind a vast filmography that immortalized the image of the loyal, scruffy pioneer. Gerald Mohr as Doc Holliday. Born on June 11, 1914 in New York City, the radio veteran brought a distinctively suave edge to the Western genre when he joined the cast of Maverick. At the age of 43, Mohr's portrayal of the legendary gunslinger Doc Holliday was a departure from the coughing, sickly interpretations often seen on screen. Instead, he played Doc as a sharp-witted, charming, and dangerous anti-hero. His chemistry with James Garner was electric, and his performance was so popular that he reprised the role in 7 episodes, appearing more frequently than some of the show's rotating leads and cementing his version of the character as a fan favorite of the era. Despite the effortless cool he projected on screen, Mohr's career was often defined by the struggle to establish his own identity outside of inevitable comparisons. With a look and voice that bore a striking resemblance to Humphrey Bogart, he was frequently typecast as the poor man's Bogart, or relegated to B-movies and villainous roles, making it difficult for him to secure the A-list stardom his talent warranted. While he found immense success in radio, as the voice of Philip Marlowe, his television career was marked by the instability of guest work. He famously filmed a pilot for a spin-off series focused entirely on his Doc Holliday character, but the show was never picked up, a professional heartbreak that denied him a permanent starring vehicle. Gerald Mohr remained a tireless worker in the industry, transitioning into voice acting for cartoons, including the role of Reed Richards in the 1967 Fantastic Four series, and appearing in numerous television dramas. In the late 1960s, he traveled to Europe to star in a new spy series pilot, titled Private Entrance, which he hoped would launch the next phase of his career. However, tragedy struck shortly after filming concluded. Gerald Mohr passed away in Stockholm, Sweden on November 9, 1968, at the age of 54, following a sudden and fatal heart attack. He was interred at Lidingö Kyrkogård in Sweden, far from the Hollywood sound stages where he had made his mark. Peter Breck as Doc Holliday. Born on March 13, 1929 in Rochester, New York, the ruggedly handsome actor made his mark on the Western genre within the Warner Brothers television empire. At the age of 32, Breck stepped into the boots of the legendary gambler and gunslinger Doc Holliday in Maverick, taking over the recurring role during the series' later seasons. His portrayal brought a distinct charismatic edge to the deadly dentist, balancing a roguish charm with a dangerous volatility. While he appeared in several episodes, his performance was so compelling that the studio intended to launch him in a spin-off series, positioning his version of Holliday as a cultural fixture in the golden age of TV westerns. Despite the on-screen persona of a brooding, sickly, and cynical loner, Peter Breck's real-life personality was vibrant, athletic, and gregarious. He was a dedicated family man, known for his booming laugh, standing in stark contrast to the dour and consumptive character he played. His professional journey was fraught with the frustrations typical of the studio contract system. The promised Doc Holliday spin-off never materialized, a significant professional disappointment that left him in a state of career limbo. He struggled against the volatility of the industry, where show cancellations and shifting studio priorities often left talented actors scrambling for their next steady gig, facing the constant threat of typecasting as a heavy or a villain. Peter Breck eventually found lasting fame as the hot-headed Nick Barkley on The Big Valley, but he remained a working actor committed to his craft well into his later years. He moved to Vancouver, British Columbia in the 1980s, where he opened a successful acting academy, passing his knowledge on to a new generation. Sadly, his health declined in his final years due to the onset of dementia. Peter Breck passed away in Vancouver on February 6, 2012, at the age of 82. His death marked the end of an era for classic TV Western fans, and he was survived by his wife of 52 years, Diane, leaving behind a legacy of intense, memorable performances that continue to resonate. Will Wright. Born on March 26, 1894, the San Francisco native began his career as a newspaper reporter before transitioning to vaudeville and eventually character acting. Despite the character's reputation as a cold-hearted and stingy adversary, Will Wright was known off-screen as a gentle, kind-hearted man described by colleagues as sweet as a lamb, and the complete opposite of the scowling figures he played. This contrast defined his professional life. He was so effective at playing sour misers that he struggled against severe typecasting, rarely being offered roles that allowed him to display his natural warmth or versatility. While he worked consistently, he was forever boxed into the role of the town Scrooge or the corrupt elder, a professional limitation that persisted even as his health began to decline during the peak of his television fame. Will Wright continued to dominate the niche of the elderly curmudgeon in shows like The Andy Griffith Show until the very end of his life. He passed away in Hollywood, California on June 19, 1962, at the age of 68 after a battle with cancer. His death occurred just as he was cementing his legacy in television history, cutting short a career that had finally found its massive audience. He was laid to rest at the Suisun Fairfield Cemetery in California, remembered not as the miser he played, but as a beloved character actor whose distinctive voice left an indelible mark on the golden age of television. Stanford Jolley as Sheriff. Born on October 24, 1900, the Morristown, New Jersey native had already established himself as a prolific character actor before appearing in the pilot season of Maverick. At the age of 57, Jolley took on the role of sheriff. While often uncredited or cast in supporting villainous roles, his portrayal contributed to the gritty, authentic atmosphere of the show, which subverted traditional Western tropes. His distinctive narrow face and pencil mustache made him an instantly recognizable figure in the genre, serving as a reliable antagonist that allowed the show's charismatic leads to shine, helping Maverick become a ratings phenomenon that challenged the dominance of The Ed Sullivan Show. Despite his on-screen reputation as the quintessential heavy, a scheming henchman or a cold-blooded killer, Stanford Jolley was known in private life as a gentle, hard-working family man and a professional gentleman actor. This sharp contrast between his real personality and his screen persona defined his career. He faced the significant struggle of severe typecasting. For decades, he was locked into the Poverty Row circuit, churning out hundreds of B-westerns and serials where he rarely rose above the role of the secondary villain. As the classic B-movie industry collapsed in the 1950s, he faced the professional hardship of transitioning to television, where he had to scramble for bit parts in shows like Gunsmoke and Bonanza to maintain a steady income, often playing different characters in the same series just to stay employed. Stanford Jolley continued to work steadily in television and film until the mid-1970s, accumulating over 500 acting credits in a career that spanned nearly 4 decades. He eventually retired to California, leaving behind a legacy carried on by his son, Stan Jolley, who became an Academy Award-nominated art director. Stanford Jolley passed away at the Motion Picture Country Hospital in Woodland Hills, California, on December 7, 1978, at the age of 78 due to complications from congestive heart failure. He was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, remembered not as the villain he so often played, but as one of the most hard-working faces in Hollywood history. Ray Teal as Ralph Jordan. Born on January 12, 1902 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the prolific character actor was already a veteran of the screen when he stepped into the world of Maverick. At the age of 55, Teal portrayed Ralph Jordan in the 1957 episode Stage West, bringing a distinct menace and gravitas to the role of the antagonist. While he would appear in the series multiple times as different characters, his turn as Jordan showcased the quintessential Western heavy, a figure of authority or corruption that Teal had mastered. His performance contributed to the gritty, realistic texture of the show, helping to ground the often comedic and subversive series in the dangers of the Old West. Despite his on-screen reputation for playing stern sheriffs, corrupt officials, and cold-eyed villains, Ray Teal was known off-camera as a musical and affable man. Before his acting career took hold, he was a band leader and a saxophonist who played for audiences at UCLA, a far cry from the unsmiling tough guys he portrayed for decades. His career was defined by the struggle of severe typecasting. Because of his craggy features and imposing demeanor, he was rarely given the chance to play sympathetic leads or escape the Western genre. He spent years grinding through hundreds of roles, often uncredited or indistinguishable from the last, embodying the working actor who provided the necessary friction for the hero but rarely received the glory. Ray Teal continued to be a ubiquitous presence in Hollywood, eventually finding his most stable and recognized success shortly after his time on Maverick, by landing the recurring role of Sheriff Roy Coffey on Bonanza, a part he played for over a decade. He remained active in the industry until his retirement in 1974, capping off a career that spanned over 250 film and television credits. Ray Teal passed away in Santa Monica, California, on April 2, 1976, at the age of 74, from natural causes. He was interred at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, leaving behind a legacy as one of television's most reliable and recognizable Western character actors. Seeing these icons journey from the flickering screens of 1957 to the present day reminds us how deeply they've shaped our own stories. Maverick wasn't just a show, it was an era of wit and charm that defined a generation. If this walk down memory lane brought a smile to your face, please hit that like button to honor the incredible cast who made it all possible.